All right, Emmanuel, so wonderful to meet you. How are you today?
I'm so good, Bonnie. Listen, rare occasion. It's a little bit sunny in the UK, so that's definitely a good omen. So I'm glad
Uh,
to meet you also. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm doing, and actually, it's not bad here in Toronto, Canada, as well.
Okay,
So, okay,
okay.
we'll share the weather, the good weather. I got to tell you something. I freaking adore this series. I watched the whole thing, and like they
Um,
gave it to me in bits and pieces because I was speaking with Emily, and I got it all, and I just love it so much. So I don't know what it is. I'm not a young adult anymore. I know I look like one, but it's all good. I just was
exactly. You could have fooled me, girl.
thank you, my friend. But I have to say, it's just the warmth of it, and I wanted to know from you. I mean, clearly you didn't grow up with books, right?
No, the show was the first introduction to the books that I'd ever gotten. It was the first
And
time I was introduced.
yeah, so when you got the role, like, did you get a few of them, start reading, or do you just like, you know what, I'll do what I'm told on the page and get a sense of it that way?
No, I think typically I would kind of just go with the script and just follow with whatever character they've kind of laid out for me, mapped out for me, so to speak. But because this was based off of Holly's books, Holly's wonderfully best-selling books, I thought,
Yeah.
you know what, let me do a deep dive. So I didn't find out I booked the role like months in advance. I think I can't recall how much time we had, but as much time as we had, I started instantly getting through the books. I made it through about three books before we started shooting. So I
Okay.
got fairly like a good kind of scope of the world of the books and the source material. I felt like that was important. I wasn't sure I could do honor to Wilbur without knowing where
Yeah.
he'd come from and what Holly had sort of mapped out for him in that way. So yeah, I definitely did a deep dive there and I read through some of the books and honestly reading through them, I was reading them and I was like, oh God, this is so not targeted at me, is it? I'm literally in the head of a 15-year-old girl and I can feel it. But even still with the books, the material for me still felt quite mature. And I
Yes.
think that's the thing that Holly was describing, saying she didn't know all of the things that she was when she was writing this book, but you can see them seeping through. They're in the fabric of the book. All that
Yeah.
material is there, and what shaped our show. So the books were great source material for me. I really enjoyed reading them. I did, even though I'm not
Yeah.
a YA teen
For sure,
boy.
that's what I'm saying. Like this show and the books, appeals to more than just young adults. Like
Yes,
it really does
I
hit
believe
on a
that.
lot of things that everybody can relate to. And I
Yes.
really love Wilbur. I mean, honestly, he
Oh,
sees what he wants, he goes for it, he's determined, but in his heart, he is such a good person.
yeah.
And obviously has great fashion sense, as you do, because I've seen a lot of your Instagram stuff, my friend. So
Cute.
that must have been fun for you to be able to take on a character like this.
Listen, do you know what? A friend asked me yesterday. I have a producer friend, Stephanie. She asked me yesterday, she said, oh, she was watching the show and she said, you must have had loads of fun playing him. And I said, yes and no. Yes and no. With Wilbur is a lot more braver than I would say I am. Wilbur is so fearless. Wilbur's instincts are not my own. I had to actually put myself aside almost in a method actor way. And I don't want to sound like one of those actors, like I lived as Wilbur. But it for me,
That wouldn't be a
honestly,
bad thing either, though.
I'm telling you though, for me to play Wilbur and to honor his instincts, I kind of had to hold on to him in and out of work just to ensure that every choice I was making was a choice Wilbur would make and not a choice I'm making out of fear of not meeting his potential.
Right.
Wilbur is fearless. Wilbur seems to have grown up in an ideal world where everybody around him affirms him. And that is why he is able to love in the way that he does. That is why he is able to give to Harriet in a way that he does. And he's
Right.
able to say, look, Harriet, I know it's hard right now. I know maybe this isn't the easiest thing to do, but it will pay off. And you are discovering who you are. So
Mm,
be who you are. Be who you are. Don't be who they tell you to be. Be who you want to be.
for
And
sure.
Wilbur, you see it in an episode, in episode 9, when we see Wilbur's husband, Mark, and we
Yes.
see his partner and how affirming he is. And then you understand, okay, once we hopefully meet his other family, we can see how it takes a village. And that is why Wilbur is who he is. And that is why he's so supportive with Harriet. I think I would love to be Wilbur. I'm not as brave as him, but maybe one day.
Well, okay,
Maybe
you
one
had
day.
your start, well, like I say, I
A little
honestly,
introduction.
yeah, exactly. And let's get to that, how supportive he is of Harriet, which is I loved it. I just loved it to have that.
Yeah.
It shows the confidence that she gets because of the people who do support her and everything. Working, I mean, I can't think of anybody better than Emily to play this role. She captivated me from the first second I saw her on the screen. Like, I think of the show
Yeah.
now and I want to tear up. Like, she was absolutely brilliant as
She
Harriet.
was.
Like, tell me about working with this young lady. Oh, my
Can
goodness.
I say, can I say, my biggest thing about Emily is I kept saying to Em, I cannot wait for you to do press for this show because everybody's just going to see that you aren't Harriet on a day
Yeah,
to day. You don't walk around, it's not as easy as, oh, you kind of played yourself, no? And it's not the hardest thing to play yourself on screen, a lot of actors will say. But Emily transformed for that role.
yeah,
It's funny. One of our ADs would say, he's like, "Oh, Emily, you got like a walk when you play Harriet. You talk a bit different and you walk a bit different." And I'm like, "Yeah, like Emily transformed to play that role.
yeah,
She really did. She brought all the vulnerable parts of her, and she's spoken about that to me and our other castmate Zach, who is also neurodivergent. She's brought all these vulnerable parts and all this truth to this
yeah,
character, and you can just see it on screen. It radiates on screen, and it's so inspiring to watch somebody bring on the most difficult parts of themselves to tell a story that's truly important
yeah,
and hopefully impactful to other people. I've seen the comments from other neurodivergent people, and it only makes me more proud to work with someone like Emily. That's to be so brave to
yeah,
expose
yeah.
the more difficult parts of yourself. I think it's something we can only commend, and the transformation is beautiful. On a day to day, Em is so chill compared to Harriet. Harriet is like frazzled sometimes, you know.
Yes,
That's not
yes.
M. That's not M. M is so different to Harriet. So I love the world getting to see my homegirl transform. She's an actress. She can do it
Yeah.
all. It's really amazing to see.
Yeah, yeah. And you guys had some wonderful scenes together too. And
Yeah.
and as we said, Wilbur is so supportive of Harriet. He sees in her not just her beauty, whatever her inner beauty, everything about her, and
Yeah.
gets her on her career path. Who did that for you, Emmanuel, when you were growing up, when you knew that you wanted to be an actor, whatever it was? Who saw you and said, "Yeah, okay, this guy's gonna be something."
Do you know what? I've had a few I've had a few fairy godmothers in my career. I've had a few. One fairy godmother in my career you may have heard of.
Mhm.
So I get put on this film. This is about over 10 years ago. I get brought onto this film to play a CIA officer. And it's literally supposed to be for like a week or two. And the director, Ariel Roman, is good friends with another character, another actor on the show,
Yeah.
on the film, sorry, that I was paired up with. And through that way, we ended up in a bunch more scenes and ended up being on the film for 3 months. Now, my fairy godmother on that set, I will never forget the day when I had this important scene. And what he did was he put me in his chair, gave me his cans, and said, "Now watch yourself just here. Do you see what you're doing there? Now you want to think about this, because when the camera turns, at that moment is when typically you come forward and you move and you do this." And he was teaching me about film.
Wow.
Of course, I trained, but I'd never had Kevin Costner teach me how to approach film. So I can say, like, over a decade ago, my fairy godmother was Kevin Costner.
Look at him and look at him now, right?
Do you know what I mean? Do you know what I mean? That's my claim to fame. That's his claim to fame too, honey. Okay, because he got to direct
100%.
the Emmanuel Imani. But it
Listen,
was
listen, I've been
amazing.
doing this a long time and I got to interview him for Dances with Wolves.
Yeah.
And real quick story, because I know your time, you've got other people, but I was at that premiere in Washington and we're all sitting there watching it. I mean, the vice president was there. I mean, it was a big, big
Ooh.
deal. It was a big deal.
Okay. Yeah,
And
yeah.
we watched the first reel and then the second reel goes in and all of a sudden you hear kind of talking in the down in the orchestra, like what's going on? somebody put the wrong reel in. So they went to like reel 3 or 4. This is like film now, right? We're talking, that's how old I
Yes.
am. And Kevin Costner got up very calmly. You saw that he obviously went up to the balcony to, they stopped the
Yes.
film. And that's a long movie. It's a 3-hour movie, and started it from scratch again. I don't know if that person was able to keep their job, but you know what? Good for him. That's an important film. I mean,
He showed me just how important your art is, and how
yes,
seriously you have to take it, and the kind of level of detail that you observe your art. With Wilbur, as I keep saying, like, his instincts are not my own. So I really had to study him and say, like, what would Wilbur do in this moment? Where does he want to go? Oh, Manny, he's going to wear some heels. I'd never worn heels before. But Wilbur wears heels and he wears them fiercely. So I had to learn. I had to honor him. And yeah, no, Kevin Costner is a great example of detail with the art, especially as he creates and I create stuff too. So yeah, I look up to him. He's amazing.
Yeah, and speaking of your career, I mean, you've done so many great things. I love you in Wheel of Time, Riches. Oh man, I love that series so much.
Thank you.
And your very first on screen, talk about Kevin Costner. You've also been directed by Kenneth Branagh. I mean,
I have.
Right? Come on.
That was my first ever film. And I have a great story for him too. Okay. Really quickly, I have a great story for him too. When I showed up on set, they brought me to the studio and they said, look, Manny, we're going to put you in this thing that we've rigged up and it's meant to be a helicopter. Great. So then Kenneth Branagh was stood there eating a protein ball, and who walks up behind him? Chris Pine. So he's eating this protein ball and then he gives a bit to Chris Pine. Chris Pine starts eating it and then he turns around and goes, Manny, you want a bite? I'm like, yeah, I'm going to share a bite with Chris Pine and Kevin Costner. And sorry, Kenneth Branagh. Not me getting my A-listers mixed up.
I know, you have so many. Yes. I know, you're very well connected, my friend. Yes.
That is not my life. I promise it's not my life. But no, I've crossed paths with some amazing people. It's blown my mind. And people who are so driven by their art, people who take their art seriously on a level that I aspire for. I really do, especially actors who are directing and writing. They inspire me so much.
Yeah. Honestly. Well, you just keep doing what you're doing. I really, really hope we get another season of Geek Girl, because honestly,
I hope so.
Yeah, it really, exactly. My toes are crossed, but you can't see that. And listen, I know you spent some time in Ottawa, obviously, for the show, but come visit us here in Toronto. I would love to go have
I would love
with
to.
You.
Oh, I'm honoring that invite. I'm coming. I am coming. I had so much fun in Canada. The weather was way better than this, honey. This is like temporary. We don't know if it's going to stay. It's
I know.
Touch and go in the UK.
You can get in London. I get it. I get it for sure. Emmanuel, what a pleasure. You made my Friday and my weekend. I really appreciate your time today. Thank you so much.
And
thank you, Bonnie. Like I said, open invitation. Come visit me, okay? All right.
You will see me, Bonnie. I don't play. I love to travel.
Okay, and I love to travel too. So you might see. I'm going to Scotland in
the fall,
so maybe I'll come to UK. We'll see.
Where are you going in the fall?
I'm going to Scotland for 12 days.
You're going to be down the road, girl. You got to come visit.
I know. And actually, my stopover is in Heathrow, so I could extend it. Okay. Well, we'll talk.
We will talk, Bonnie. Thank you for having me, Bonnie. It's been a pleasure.
Oh, you're such a pleasure. Thank you so much. Have a great weekend.
Thanks, Bonnie. Bye-bye. See you. You too.
Bye.
Bye.